Hey everyone, Moshe the Electric Israeli is here, and today I want to make this special video about the situation in Ukraine, Russia, and because I'm Jewish and I'm Israeli, will give a little bit of perspective from that point of view. But obviously, my channel is not on politics. We don't do politics. It's on electric cars, Tesla, other electric cars, energy, green energy. That's all I talk about for many years now. But I wanted to make this point, this crisis in Ukraine, because I want to tie it to green energy and what's going on around the world. It looks like it's not connected, but believe me, it is connected. First of all, from a historical point of view, Europe is the biggest graveyard of the Jewish people throughout history. Okay, not only in the Holocaust. The Holocaust, of course, was the biggest tragic event for Jewish people when 6 million Jews were killed by the Nazis. 3 million of them in Poland alone. Ukraine was, I don't want to say willing participant, but it is a very was a very anti-Semitic country towards Jewish people. Many atrocities happened there as well. Russia, which also hosts throughout history and even today, millions of Jews around the world in Jewish history, was fighting against the Nazis, along with the United States and Britain and Western Europe. Having said that, a lot of years have passed since then. Israel and Russia do have a relationship today, collaboration also in the situation in Syria, Iraq, and other places. So there's a lot of interests. Okay, the president of Ukraine today is Jewish. Vladimir Zelensky is Jewish. There's more than 200,000 Jews who live in Ukraine today. More than 10,000 Israelis live in Ukraine, business, family connection. And there's a lot of Russians who also moved to Ukraine. So Ukraine and Russia have a long history, going all the way back to the Cold War, where Ukraine was part of the Soviet Union. Now, I don't want to get into the politics or geopolitics and all that, but after the fall of the Soviet Union, in 1994, there was an agreement, it's called the Budapest Agreement, where Ukraine, which was the third most powerful nuclear country, had 9,000 nuclear warheads, hand them over to Russia in that agreement in exchange for guaranteeing their border sovereignty. That includes the Crimea and the eastern part of Ukraine that have the separatists and the rebels fighting since 2014 when Russia took over Crimea. Now, what happened? Now, again, I'm not taking sides, but after the fall of the Soviet Union, the West has doubled, literally doubled, from 15 to I think 31 countries who belong to NATO, all the way to Poland, which borders with the Ukraine. Ukraine was not part of it because Ukraine had a pro-Russian president until 2014, when there was a revolution that ousted that president. His name is Yanukovych, and then brought eventually to what we have now, Zelensky. So in 2014, right after the Olympics, the Winter Sochi Olympics, literally a day after, Putin has invaded the Crimean Peninsula, had a election, and the election, 75% of the people in Crimea decided to become part of Russia. Same thing in the eastern part of Russia, the two provinces in the eastern part of Russia. So Russia has seen itself since the fall of the Soviet Union. They lost the great empire, and they feel, whether it's true or not, it's probably not true, that they are victims of the Western expansion to their borders via NATO. That's what Vladimir Putin says. Basically, if Ukraine becomes NATO, that's like the end of Russia. Now, personally, I don't think that the West is posing any threat to Russia. They're not going to invade it, but it doesn't matter. The West did not exactly make great effort to embrace Russia after the fall of the Soviet Union, like it did after World War II to Germany and to Japan. Look at the relationship with them; it's like night and day. Obviously, the two great enemies, the Nazis and the imperialist Japanese, who attacked Pearl Harbor. So, having said all of this, from the Jewish and now the Israeli point of view, we have a bitter history between Ukraine and Poland, to put them together. Of course, Germany, which perpetrated the Holocaust in World War II and all that. But not Russia is not exactly was the greatest place for Jewish people to live. Okay, they were denied to practice their religion, and right after the fall of the Soviet Union, more than 1 million Jews left Russia and immigrated to Israel, and some of them immigrated to the United States. Now, there's a one, and then I want to connect it to the crisis in Ukraine today. A few years ago, there is a pipeline that starts from the northwest part of Russia, the area of Estonia, is as built. It's called the Nord Stream 2, built through that area in the northwest all the way to northern Germany, which would supply 40% of the energy needs of Germany and the rest of Europe. Europe is very much reliant on on Russian oil and gas. Russia is the second largest producer of oil and gas in the world. Their economy, 80% of their economy is based on that. Now, you can say, okay, we're not buying oil and gas from you, but the prices of gasoline in Europe will climb to $20 a gallon, in the United States maybe to 10. Now, United States is the number one producer of oil, and the United States can solve its issues if policies will change. I'm not saying to nationalize the oil industry and natural gas industry in the United States, but you can do things to help the American people, so it will hurt less. The point of all of this, with the history and with everything that we talked about briefly, and what we call sphere of influence, that it was understood that the sphere of influence around Russia is those former Soviet Union countries, which most of them, 98% of them, became NATO members, which tells a lot about Russia. If somebody doesn't want to be associated with you, maybe something is wrong with you, objectively speaking. But we cannot imagine if something like this will happen in Mexico or Canada, if they decide to become communist and all that. We saw the Cuban Missile Crisis back in the early 60s. The point is, if there was a time in human history to transition aggressively to sustainable energy that uses the greatest fusion on earth, which is the sun and the wind and electric cars, which, for example, Norway is a country that is now practically selling 100% of electric cars. This is the time. And as a Jew or an Israeli, the fact that the coastline of Israel, and Israel 95% of the time is sun. In other words, the technology is there. If you are reliant on Middle Eastern oil and on Russian oil and gas, and other communist countries around the world, their technology and their manufacturing, because it's cheap, that's what you're going to get. Okay, that's what you're going to get. Like, sometimes I fear about the future of Tesla, since 50% plus of their production is in China. Who says that China is not going to do something in the future? Now, they have a mutual interest with each other, but there are no guarantees, as you know. So Western Europe and the Western world needs to, the time came a long time ago for environmental reasons, but now you can see what happened when you're reliant on oil and gas coming from a country like Russia. And the fact that Germany has suspended the already complete Nord Stream 2, that is not going to last that long. Okay, it doesn't say much about Russia, that their 80% of their economy is based on natural gas and oil, where there's no innovation, nothing, and military sales. That's all they do. It's almost shameful. Okay, having said that, it is really a time to say it's enough, and now we are going to really move into complete and total renewable energy as much as humanly possible. So these natural resources, which help ruin the world, will be no factor. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. נכון יפה, אני?